Hi everyone, thanks for purchasing the Excel Jumpstart. This is a guide that helps you learn the basics of Excel in the least amount of time as possible. And what we're going to do here is this is just a video that complements the guide. I definitely recommend that you walk through the guide step by step. I think that you'll benefit from walking through the steps yourself and actually performing the steps. Before you get started with Excel, you need to make sure that you have Excel. So I have a link in the guide on page 5 or page 3 that will take you to the Microsoft Office webpage where you can download Excel. So let's just go ahead and do that. So once you're at the page, you have a couple options here. You can download it for your home or for your business. So me personally, I'm going to go to business, and what I would download here is the Office 365 Business Premium. It's got Microsoft Outlook, Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, and it's got a lot of extras that you probably use in your business. So personally, that's what I would go with, but you have your own personal needs, so I just make sure you download it, and then once you have it downloaded, you can go to the desktop, and right here there's a shortcut on the desktop. So I'm just going to click on that to open Excel, and you can see here there's a couple recent things that I've worked on, and Excel has different templates already stored for you, and you can look at it by category. So if we click on business, for instance, it's going to take you to the business templates that they have. So there's a lot of useful things in here that you can use, but typically, you can look at it by category and things like that. But typically what you're going to do is just go to blank workbook, and we're just going to click on that. It's going to open up a new workbook, and we're going to start with sheet 1. And the first thing I'm going to show you is how to save your file. So to save a file, you just want to click on File up here and click on Save As. Make sure that you have selected Computer here. Click on Browse so we can browse for location. And I'm just going to come down to a folder where I know that I'm going to have it. So if I click on Excel Jumpstart, I'm going to save it right here where I have this Excel Basics file saved, and I'm just going to call this Excel Basics 2, and then click on Save, and that's going to save my file. So that's how you get started, starting it up and getting started with Excel and saving a file. The next thing that we're going to go over is the ribbon. So the ribbon is kind of how you navigate through Excel. So the ribbon's up here. It's got a couple different tabs. It's got the Home tab, Insert, Layout, Formulas, Data, Review, View, and then you can add a couple different things. Like I have Developer on here. So developers, if you're a little bit more advanced, and you can use Visual Basic and macros and things like that. We're going to stay away from that in this video. But so the home screen really just has it's got commands for formatting worksheets, changing your fonts, the alignment of things in your cells, numbers, and then different styles. A lot of different formatting here. Your insert is going to have a spot where you can insert tables, illustrations, charts, links, and then sparkliness, headers and footers, and customizing text and things like that. The page layout is going to have where you can change your margins, change the page background, and change the orientation of the page. Formulas is basically lets you browse and select formulas and functions, define names, and to audit formulas. Let's see, we got data here. Your data ribbon is going to let you access external data, sort and filter. It lets you access data tools, group cells together, and add subtotals. The review tab check spelling, add comments, protect your worksheet and workbook, and some other commands on here. The View tab is lets you change your workbook view. It lets you show grid lines and different things like that. Zoom in and lets you freeze panes and other things like that. So that is the ribbon. Now, if we want to customize this ribbon, we can customize the ribbon. So to customize the ribbon, we're gonna click anywhere, basically in this bar here, and if you right-click, you can come down to Customize Ribbon. So you open that up, and then what we can do here, if we want to change the view, so this is our current view here, say that we want to add a new tab, you just come down here, and click on Add New Tab down here. So it creates a new group, and you just click OK, and you can see here now that we have a new tab. So you would be able to add things to that tab. So if we wanted to put in commands that are not in our ribbon already, like different paste options, we could say paste formatting, click on that, add it to there, paste formulas, add it to there, paste link, add it to there, click OK, and then it shows up in our ribbon. So we can customize that. We can also customize the quick access toolbar. So up here is the quick access toolbar, and we just do it the same exact way. We can right click up here in the ribbon and say customize quick access toolbar. So I've kind of kept mine really simple. I try to keep that one simple so that I just have the functions that I use the most. So as you can see, the undo, save, and redo, print preview, that's one that I definitely use a lot. So you can add, in the same manner, you can add what you want to add to the quick access toolbar. And then once you're done, you can just click OK. So next we're just going to navigate through the cells. So there's a couple different ways to navigate through the cells. So what I'm going to do is just click on, with my mouse, I'm going to left click on cell D5. So that's one way to navigate through the cells. You can just click on whatever cell you want to click on. So in this case, I'm clicking on D5. So D5 is what's considered kind of the name of the cell. So I'm on D5 right now. So the way that you go about this is Excel has rows. So the rows are numbered basically 1 through almost 1 million, probably even more than 1 million. I think it's more than 1 million. And then the columns are lettered. So A, B, C, D, you have G all the way through Z, and then once you get to Z, it starts over with AA, AB. So I think there's about 16,000 columns that are available. So there's lots of information that's in here, or that you can put in here. So right now I'm on D5. So there's, like I said, there's different ways to navigate through the cells by clicking with your mouse. The other way is through your keys on your keyboard. So you can go up and down with the arrow keys on your keyboard, up, down, right, left. And then the third way is if you push enter, it goes down. If you push shift and push enter, it goes up. And then the tab button goes right, and if you push shift and tab, it goes left. So it's good to know just different ways to navigate through the cells, because once you start using Excel a lot and you're kind of busy with your hands and you're trying to get some stuff done really fast, sometimes your hands are logistically close to your mouse or close to the keyboard, just depends on what you're doing. So knowing those different options is really good at getting fast at Excel. And then what you're also able to do is, so that's the cells. The other thing is ranges of cells. So if I click with my mouse on E5 and I drag that through down to J12, that is a range of cells. So there's a couple different ways to select ranges of cells. One is what I just showed you with my mouse. I'm left clicking and then I hold the button down and drag it down through J13. The other way is to just go to the cell that you want to start with. So right now I'm on D5, and I just hold down the shift key, and I can use my arrow buttons on the keyboard to select the range of cells that I want to select. So like I said before, it's good to know the different ways to do it, just because you don't know where your hands are going to be. It's good to know those different options. And then the next thing that we're going to look at is the formula bar. So on the formula bar is here, right here where the cursor is. And so say that I want to enter some information into D6. So I'm just going to put a little formula in here, and in Excel all your formulas start with equals. So I'm going to put in just 6 times 8 in this cell, and I'm going to push enter. And so you can see 6 times 8 is 48. But if I look up here at the formula bar, it actually shows me what formula is behind the information that's in there. So I'm showing 48 here. The formula bar is showing me the actual formula that I have in there. And so just a real quick shortcut on this too. There's different ways to enter the cell. So by enter the cell, I mean open it up so that I can type in more information. So say that I wanted to add something to this, I could just, with my mouse, just double click on it and it'll open it up, and then I can click around inside there and add whatever I want to add. Or I can push the F2 key, and the F2 key I use a ton because it saves a bunch of time. And what the F2 key does is it opens up the cell and it puts your cursor at the end of the formula. So say that I wanted to add something to this, like +1. I would just push F2, add my +1, and now I have 49. So just a real quick shortcut on that. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to actually walk through a real example of an Excel spreadsheet, and we're going to do a lot of stuff to it so that you can kind of get a feel for how to use Excel, some of the different commands, some of the different formulas, things like that. So to get started, I put together an Excel worksheet that has some raw data with it to start with. So to download that, you just it's on page 16 of the guide. You can download it by just clicking on the link. If that doesn't work, you want to just copy the HTML or the website into your and put it in your browser, and that's going to download the the file. So it's downloading. Click on it, and it should open up here. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to do is we are just going to start off. I'm going to show you how to add a blank sheet. So adding a blank sheet is really easy. Right now we have one sheet, January sales report. All you got to do is click this plus button right here. So then we have sheet 1, blank sheet. Next thing we're going to do is do a move or copy an existing sheet. So we're just going to make a copy of this January sales report so that we have some of the information on here we might use later. So we're just going to make a copy of it. So to do that, I'm just going to right click on the tab right here and click move or copy, and I'm going to click on create a copy, and we'll click on move to end, select move to end, and then click OK. And now you can see here that we have another copy. So I'm just going to rename this sheet copy, or I'm going to put just put copy in capital letters on there, and go ahead and push enter. So now I have a copy of it. So now I can, instead of copying, I can move the sheet to where I want to move it. So what I'm going to do is just right click on here and select move or copy. And we're just gonna move this right before sheet 1, so we want to say before sheet 1, click OK, and then you see that move the tab right before sheet 1. There's a shortcut to do this. All you got to do is just click on it, drag it to where you want. There's a little arrow that shows you where it's going to be, and then once you want it, have it where you want it, just release it. So that makes it a little bit easier. So that's that. Next thing we're going to do is hide a sheet. So I have this. We want to hide this so that we don't make any changes to it. So I'm just going to right click on it and click hide, and I've hidden that sheet. Next thing I'm going to show you is how to delete a sheet. So we don't need sheet 1 anymore, so just right click on that and select delete. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and save the file. And you want to get in the habit of saving your work pretty often, because you don't want to lose any of your work if something crashes or something like that, and you've done a lot of work. You don't want to lose everything. So I'm just going to go ahead and select our file here, and I'm just going to save it in the same spot where we saved the original. And also, before you delete a sheet, you want to make sure to save it, because what can happen is you can't undo deleting a sheet. So if I click delete here, I can't undo it. It goes to the last command that I did on my last sheet. So you can't undo the delete sheet. But what you can do is, if you accidentally delete a sheet and you saved it right before you deleted a sheet, you can close out of it, close out of Excel, and then open your workbook back up, and your sheet will be back. So I'll just get in the habit of saving your work often, and make sure that you save your files before making a big change like that. So this is our information here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to format some cells. So there's two types of things that you can input into Excel. There's numbers, like dates and times, and then there's text, like the list of different entities here, and terms, that would be kind of a text column, numbers, percentages, things like that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to start off by editing this date column here. So we're going to change the format of the date. So to do that, up here under the Home tab, there is a number category, and there's a little dialog box opener right here. So we click on this, and it's going to give us different options to format this date. So right now it's selecting category, it's on date, which is right, but we want it to look like this. We want it to be in this format instead of what it currently is. So we're just going to select those cells, click on the dialog box and select date, and then this format here, and we're going to click OK. And so that changes the date to how we want it. Next, I'm just going to do the time. So I'm just going to select the time there, and instead of clicking on the number, another way I can do it is just right click on it and select format cells. That's going to open up the same dialog box that has my number in there, and so I'm selecting the category time, and then for time I'm going to do more standard time instead of military time. I'm just going to select 1:30 p.m. so it's going to come out in this format. So that's the format I want. Click OK. You can see it changes all of my numbers to that format. So another option is up here. There's different options that are pretty standard options. You can use this dialog box. I don't use this too often. I do use the numbers here, which we'll get to in a little bit. So some of these buttons are nice to use. So I'm just going to go ahead and format the rest of these. So this discount is a percentage, so I'm just going to click on percent, and it's putting in the percentage, changing that to a percent. Go ahead and do this one. Click on percent, and discounts taken. This one is going to be a different number, so I'm just going to click on this little comma. This makes it an accounting style number, and so it's got decimal and then 2 zeros after. So if I don't want those, I can just click that button to get rid of my decimals, and then this amount received over here, and I'm going to do the same thing. Select it and push that and get rid of my decimals. And then if I want dollar signs on this one, I can click on this little dollar sign here, and it'll put dollar signs in front of it, and I can get rid of my decimals like that. Another way you could do the same exact thing that I was showing you earlier, or you can right click, open up the dialog box. This is a percentage, it's got decimal places here. You can select what you want. On the other ones, it's going to show you what format it's in. If you come here and open up the dialog box like we did before. Right now it's a custom. If I want to change it to accounting, I can change it to accounting. And decimal places 0. Looks good to me. So now it's an accounting number instead of a. And then here, if I want to do the same thing, I can do make it accounting, and I can have the symbol in front of it, 0 decimals. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and format the rest of these, so make it look exactly like it's in the guide. So add my decimals back here, and come down here, format these numbers, click on that, and now now it's formatted exactly like it's formatted in the guide. Another little quick trick you can do is the format painter. So format painter, I'm just going to double click. You can click the format painter once, and you can just do it one time, or you can double click on the format painter, and you can select multiple cells to use the format painter on. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do some cell alignment. So you can see here how I have January sales report. Nope, don't want to do that. To get out of the format painter, you can push escape, and that'll get rid of your format painter if you were stuck on it. So I just undid that. But another thing you can do is we're going to work on some cell formatting. So let's start out by doing some alignment of the cells. So you can see up here where my January sales report, it's over in this corner. I want to make it so it's nice and centered to show the full report. So I'm just going to select all of the cells that I want to, because I want this to be kind of in the middle here. So what I'm going to do is select all those, and I'm going to click on merge and center. And so what that does is it merged all my cells together and centered it. And then we're going to do a little bit of alignment within the cells. So one thing that you can do in Excel is I've selected cell A2, but if I want to select more than one cell or more than one range of cells, I can do that by holding down the control key. So I'm on cell A2 right now. I'm going to hold down the control key and select the different cells that I want to apply this formatting to. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're just going to center these so that they are, instead of being over to the left, they're more centered. So I'm just going to click on this little center button right here to center those. And so now what I want to do is I want to do something called wrap text. So we have one here where the discount available percentage doesn't really fit inside the cell. So I want to make that so that it fits inside there, and it's going to just look a little bit nicer after I get done with this. So I'm just going to select the ones that I want to do this to by holding down the control key and using my mouse to select them. And then I'm going to come up here to wrap text. And so what you can see there is that it makes it centered, and it wraps it so that it stays within inside the cell and doesn't go outside the cell. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to adjust the column widths. So there's a couple different ways that you can do that. One thing you can do is you can do it by what's considered auto fit. So to do an auto fit, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show it to you on column K here. Is you just hover your mouse over till it makes that little signal where the arrows are showing both ways, and then just double click it. And what that does is it auto fits it so that it centers it. And I'm going to do that on column M. And so you can make things centered based on that. So it'll change the column width. But then you can also manually adjust the column width. So what we're going to do is we're going to try this on column M here. So I want to make it just a little bit bigger. So what I'm going to do is just hover over the right side of column M and just kind of drag it to the point where I want it to be. Same thing with column O. I can use it to do that. So just two different ways to kind of adjust those widths on the columns there. But then let me just kind of demonstrate on these columns in between. So these columns are a little bit too wide. I want to make them a little bit narrower. So I'm going to come here and I'm just going to select these, make it look a little bit nicer. So I'm selecting multiple ranges, and I can do this individually, or I can do all of them by selecting more than one by holding that control key down. And then I'm just going to make this 20 pixels. There you go. So you can see those different pixels, or those different columns. I've shrunk all those down, so it makes it look a little bit more close together and nice, and format a little bit nicer. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm just going to finish formatting this up a little bit. There's a couple things kind of outside of where I want it to be, like I got this net 30 outside there, so I'm going to go ahead and auto fit that and auto fit a couple different columns. Oh. So that looks a little bit nicer. And then I'm just going to go ahead and format these numbers as well. Okay. And all right, so everything's looking really good. So what we want to do now is we're just going to show you how to change the font. So to do that, I'm just going to click here on column on the January sales report on the title, and I'm going to select the on the font ribbon, or from the font category, I'm going to select bold on this. So go ahead and select bold. So that made it bold, and then from the drop down I'm going to select 24, so that makes it a little bit bigger. And then there's also a drop down for the font type, so you can see what different fonts would look like. I'm going to go ahead and go with the Arial font because Arial is pretty common. So next thing we're going to do is just format these column headings in the same manner. So I'm just going to hold the control key down and select those. And what I want to do is just make these column headings bold. Click that bold button. And then next thing we want to do is just I want to show you how to change the cell colors. So I'm going to make this one blue. So I'm just select the cell, and then here is a little fill color, and from the drop down you can just select blue color, makes it blue. And then I'm going to make these little columns in between. I'm going to make these gray so that makes it look nice. You can see the differences. So I'm just going to hold the control key down, select where I want to format these, and we're going to make these gray. So while I'm doing this, I'm just holding the control key down and selecting what I want to select. And then from the drop down here with the fill color, I'm going to select gray. So now it's really starting to look nice. Alright, so another thing you can do to make things look even better is to add some borders. So right now I have my column headings. It looks pretty nice. Gonna make it look a little bit nicer by adding an underline on this. So I'm just using the control key to select the ones that I want. And then what I'm gonna do is there's a little border tab up here where I can select from drop down different borders. The one that is currently selected is the underline, the bottom border. So I'm just going to go ahead and click that button, and that puts a little border underneath of it. Makes it look even nicer. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here. It's a good way to show some totals and things like that. So what I'm going to do is just select these ones. So this is a total, so I'm going to put a double underline underneath this one. So from the drop down here, I'm just going to select top and bottom border, and that's going to put that in there. So then what I want to do here is I want to also make these so that they are double underlined and they have the same formatting. So to do that, I can either go and select these, or I can use the format painter and put my format painter just like that. So now, and then I'm just going to push escape to get out of the format painter. And so now you can kind of see we're really formatted up really nice there. Next thing that we can do, and what I'm going to show you, is kind of how to manage the rows and the columns. So let's say that I want to delete some columns, something I don't need, like I want to delete column P and column Q because I've just decided I don't need it. So what I'm going to do is come up here till my cursor's that down arrow and hold my mouse button down and select those two columns, and then all I got to do is right click in the selection here and push delete, and that's going to move all of that information, all of these blank cells to the left, get rid of those two columns that I had there before, and that's how you delete a column. So next thing that I'm going to do is just insert a column. So just like I deleted the columns, I can insert one. So I'm going to insert one right next here to column J. I'm going to click on that, select J as the row, right click, and click insert. And that puts in a nice column right there. Another thing you can do is just add in two columns, or more than one column at once. So what I'm going to show you that is just select column J and K, and do the same thing, click insert, and now I have it added two columns instead of one. That's good to know because sometimes you need to add a lot of columns and a lot of rows, and so you can add a lot more by selecting more at one time. And you can do the same sort of thing on the rows by just selecting the number that you want to insert and right click and then click insert, and that's going to insert rows where you want them. So kind of decided I don't need these. I don't need these columns here, so I'm just going to undo these by clicking the undo button. It's going to get me back to what I was before. So let's say I want to delete some rows, so I don't need row 32 or row 34. I can do one individually by right clicking and clicking delete, or I can hold the control key down and select the two rows that I don't want, right click on it and select delete. That's going to get rid of those two rows. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to do is just show you how to kind of populate information into the cells, but before I do that, we're going to delete some information so then we can repopulate it. So say that I don't want to delete the whole row, I just want to delete the information inside here. So what I can do is I can click on it and just push the delete button on my keyboard, and I just did one there, but you can do multiple. So if I select column A and then I select column C here, by holding the control key down I can select multiple and just push delete on my keyboard, and gets rid of the information inside those cells. So one way to populate things is by autofill. So autofill, what it does is it picks up on patterns, and your pattern is typically like the date or days of the week or something like that, so, or months. So kind of the way that I populated the sale date is I just typed into this first cell, I typed in 1/2/19, and then I can copy this down by selecting this little corner here on the cell. So you want to hover your cursor over until you get that little plus sign, and then you right click on it and then hold the button down and just drag it down, and you can see how it repopulates the entire column there. So another thing you can do with that is, instead of clicking and dragging down, sometimes it saves a little bit of time if you just wait until you get to that plus sign and then just double click, and it takes all your information down to where Excel determines that it needs to stop, because there was some information in this cell, so it figured that it should stop here. But sometimes that doesn't always work out the best. It's a shortcut that works, but you kind of have to look at it to make sure it worked how you wanted it to work. The other thing that we can do is just copy and paste information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to unhide a sheet here, so that we can use that information that we have from the original raw data that we originally used. So to unhide a sheet, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to right click on January sales report and click unhide, and then you can see here that this was a hidden sheet, and what I'm going to do is just make sure that's selected and click OK, and then now it's not hidden anymore. I have the information right here. So now that we have our sheet unhidden, we can copy this time over to the January sales report and input that information right here. So to do that, what I'm going to do is just select all of the times, and I'm going to right click and select copy, come over to the January sales report, and on cell C3 right click and push paste, the paste icon. So what you can see here is that it put the information in there as the military time, but we already had this formatted for the regular standard time. So what I'm going to do is just undo this, and just real quick I want to show you a quick shortcut. I'm going to push escape to get out of that, but I'm just going to select this, and then a quick shortcut, and very useful shortcut, is to push Control C, and what that does is it copies. So it creates a copy of that information, and then here I'm going to push Control V, and that's going to paste the information in there. That's a really quick shortcut that I use all the time, and it's great. Probably the most used shortcut that I use. But I'm going to go ahead and undo this because we want to put in the standard time that we already formatted. So go ahead and select this and right click, select copy, and go back to the January sales report. I'm going to right click here, and then this time there's different paste options here, but I'm just going to do paste special, and that's what that's going to do is it's going to put the values in there, and it's already formatted. So I'm just putting the values, and it's keeping the format that's already in the cells. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and so you can see now that I have the information back in there. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to get into is just doing a little bit of formulas, doing some math formulas. So right now I have this discounts taken column, and it's just got a 0 in there, it's got negative 20 in there, negative 50 in there, but how this is really calculated is it's 2% of 1,000. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that this has a formula in there, because say that I need to update some numbers here, I want this to update automatically so that I don't have to go back through and figure it out with my calculator and type the number in. So every formula starts with an equals sign, and I'm going to start here on this cell. So just type in equals, and then I'm going to go 1,000, select cell G3, and so you can see it puts that cell in there. I'm going to multiply that by the percentage. And so to multiply, I'm going to go with an asterisk, and then the discount taken is going to be 0. So now I have my formula in there. I can go ahead and hit enter. Real quick, I should just go over. So in Excel, there's the 4 basic math functions are addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. So addition is the plus sign, subtraction is the hyphen, and multiplication is the asterisk, and division is a /. So just wanted to go over those real quick. But now, so I have this formula in here, G3 through M3, or multiplied by M3. So now I can drag this down just as I would doing the autofill, and it's going to put that formula in all of those cells. Okay, so before it was a negative number, it's now a positive number. And that's because I have two positives here. So I'm going to correct that by coming up here to the formula bar. I'm just going to put a negative amount in there. And then I'm going to copy that back down. And now I'm back to negative numbers. All right, so the next thing that we're going to go over is just going over some absolute cell references. And so what absolute cell references do is they basically peg that cell, and it won't move whenever you copy that formula to another cell. So in this situation, we have G4 through times M4. And if you click on the next cell, it's G5 times M5 and M6, M7, M8, and so on. So whenever I copied that down, it copied those rows. Excel went to the next row. So say that I don't want it to do that. So to demonstrate that, what I want to do is I'm going to come up with a percentage of the total for the January sales. So I'm going to keep everything is going to be divided by this amount to come up with my percentage. So to do that, I'm going to go equals 1,000, and I'm going to divide that by the total. Now to get the absolute cell reference in there, what I want to do is on my keyboard I want to push F4. And so that puts dollar signs in front of those, in front of G and in front of 32. And if I keep pushing F4, it'll put that dollar sign in front of different spots. And so whatever that dollar sign is in front of is going to stay. So whenever I copy this formula down, it's going to stay on G32. Let's just say that I didn't do that real quick. So I've got my number here and I copy that down. Well, down here it's not working because it's dividing by G39, and I don't want that to happen. So I need to go here and I need to push F4 so that I lock that in place. And then I can copy that formula down, and it'll keep that G32 in every single cell. So I'm just going to go ahead and format this and get this formatted correctly so that it looks nice and neat. And move this to 20 pixels and do a little format painter on this. There we go. Now we're looking good. And I'm going to name this column heading. I'm going to name this column heading percentage of total billed. There we go. Do a little formatting there. Okay, so everything's looking really good. So let's get into some formulas. So the formulas are on the formulas tab. So there's different categories that you can look at. There's financial, different formulas to look at there, logical, text. So each formula, if you go to it and you click on, or you hover over it, it'll tell you what it does. So the sum adds all the numbers in a range of cells. So we're going to use the sum function to start. Very popular function, probably the most popular function that I use. And basically all it does is just does what it says. It sums up the numbers. So right here, right now we have in cell G32 is a number, and it's just typed in there. So we want this to sum up all of the cells in this range here. So here I'm just going to go click the select this cell G32, and then go to Math and Trig, and come down to Sum and select the Sum function. And then this little dialog box is going to pop up. You can see right here this number has our range that we want to sum already in there. And so say that we needed to change the range, we could change it here and then click OK. And now we have a function in here, sum G3 through G31. And if I double click on this, it'll show you what it's summing up. So I'm going to go ahead and push enter there. And then we're going to do the same thing on cell O32. But as you get used to it, you'll want to make things go a little quicker. I mean, there's going to be certain functions that you kind of have memorized how they operate. So in that situation, what I'm going to do is just going to type in equals, type in sum, start my parentheses, and I'm going to select the range of cells that I want to sum up in my parentheses, and then I'm going to push enter. And so you can see that the result is the same. So it's just a little bit quicker to do it that way, in my opinion. So here we're going to go ahead and we're going to calculate our next function, which is the average function, very popular function. So just here I'm going to go equals average and start parentheses, and then I'm going to select the range of cells that I want the average of, and I'm going to end the parentheses and push enter. So now I have an average function, and then we're going to do the same thing over here. Equals average, select the range, and end the parentheses, and now I have a function in this cell. So another function that's very popular is the count function. So say that I want to count the number of transactions that we had for the month of January. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a new row here, number of transactions, and right here I'm going to put in count. I'm going to put in the range that I want it to count. So I have this range right here, and close my parentheses, and now I have 29 transactions. Okay, so then this one's a little bit more complicated, but I just wanted to take it a step further so you can kind of see how Excel really works. So what you can do in Excel is you can use more than one function, and a good function to use is to demonstrate this is the round function. So here we have a decimal 8.86. Say that we want to round this to the nearest dollar. So for this function I'm going to put in round, and then it gives you a little hint here on what the round function does as you're typing it in. So round, you enter the number that you want rounded. So in this case, the number we want rounded is the average of all of those of this range. And then the next part of this is comma, and then you put the number of digits that you want it rounded to. And the number of digits here is either to the right of the decimal point or to the left of the decimal point. So since we're doing just rounding to the nearest dollar, we're going to put a 0 in here. And now you can see that this number is rounded to the nearest dollar. Now say that we wanted to round this to the nearest thousand. Here we just come up here and we would change this 0 to -3. So that's going to put it 3 spaces away from the decimal, and push enter. And now it's rounded to 3,000. So the next thing we're going to get into is managing data. So one thing you can do is do find and replace. So say that we have in these terms here we have 210 net 30. We want to switch that to 210 net 15. So to do that, we can do that easily by doing find and replace. So on the home tab, we want to come to select find and select, and then we can go to either find or replace. So I'm going to go ahead and click on replace, and once I do that, this little dialog box will pop up. And first what we want to do is in here we want to go in and say, what do you want to find? Okay, I want to find 210 net 30. Okay, and then I'm going to say find next. So then you can see it comes to the first instance of where 210 net 30 is. So say that we want to replace that. So we want to find 210 net 30. We want to replace that with 215 net 45. So if there was nothing here, we would type in 215 net 45, but I've already got it in there. So we're going to go ahead and click replace and see what happens. So I click replace, and then over here you can see 215 net 45. So it replaced that first instance. So if I was to push replace again, it would replace 210 net 30 with 215 net 45. But I have this entire range selected here that I wanted to find and replace. So I can go ahead and hit replace all, and it's going to replace all of those instances where it has 210 net 30 with 215 net 45. So just click OK and close this out, and I'm all set there. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to sort this information. So we want to sort everything by the platform, because we want to look at everything to Amazon, we want to look at everything to eBay, and then we want to look at everything to Walmart. So to do that, I'm just going to select the table that I want to select and the information that I want to sort. And I want to make sure to select all of the information that I want to sort. I don't want to leave anything off, because that could cause some problems. So once I select it, I'm going to come to the Data tab, and then I'm going to select Sort. And then I'm going to sort by column E, which is the platform, and it's going to go in alphabetical order from A to Z. And then I'm going to add a level, because I want to look at everything from what did we pay, or what did we receive, or what did we bill that was the largest in January versus what was the smallest in January. So here I'm going to select column G. And then over here, instead of smallest to largest, I want to look at everything from largest to smallest. And then I'm just going to click OK. So now you can see that it's all sorted, alphabetical order, and largest to smallest. And that's exactly how I want to look at it. So then one more thing you can do is, or another thing you can do is filtering. So we can actually filter this information so that we are only looking at what we want to look at. So I have it selected. I want to look at everything based on platform maybe. So I want to select, including my column headings, what I want to filter. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and then come up here on the Data tab and select Filter. And what that does is it puts these little drop downs here. So say that I want to look at everything for Walmart. So under the platform, I got this little drop down box. And I'm going to come here, and I want to, right now everything's selected, but I want to just look at Walmart. So I'm going to click on Select All. That gets rid of all of my check marks. And then I'm going to select Walmart, and that's going to just select just the Walmart. So then I'm going to click OK, and then you can see it's only showing me those amounts billed to Walmart. So to get rid of the filter, all you have to do, we can undo this by selecting all, going back and selecting all, or we can just click on this filter again, and it gets rid of the filter. So the last piece of this is printing. So now that we have our sales report how we want it, and it looks really nice, we want to be able to print this thing. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to set the print range. So what Excel will do if you don't set the print range is it'll determine based on the size of the information in here where the print range is, but we don't want that to happen. We want to select our own print range. So we're going to select everything that we want to print, which is the entire table, and then to select the print range, we're just going to go to Page Layout, and under this Print Area drop-down box, we are going to click on Set Print Area. And so what that does is it locks in which cells are going to be printed. So then the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that this print area is on the page correctly. So to do that, we're going to go to Page Setup, and this little box opens up this dialog box, and you have some different options here. You can do portrait, landscape, adjust to, fit to, one page. What we're going to do here is we're going to fit it to one page, because this will definitely fit on one page. But just look at the other options here. You can fit it to one page, 4 pages tall. We're going to select one page wide by 1 page tall. This is going to put it all on one page. And we're going to go ahead and select Print Preview to see what this looks like. And it's going to pop up and show you what it's going to look like when it prints out. And it looks really good. So the only thing left that we need to do is select our printer. So here's my printer right here, 281, and select Print. And after you select Print, you're all done. You made it through work through the guide. Make sure you get a good understanding of Excel. That guide's going to help, just walking step by step through that. Keep working with it. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. You can always click the undo button. And just a reminder, subscribe to the Accounting Excel YouTube channel. A lot of good tips on there, a lot of good tutorials on there. Thanks again.